Hello there guys, welcome back to episode 3 of Hearts of Iron 4 as the United Kingdom. This is attempt 2, but I think already things are going slightly better. For a start, I'm not completely out of manpower because the first time I played this, I had no idea that you could change these 3 things here. I thought they were fixed, so I'm actually quite glad that somebody pointed that out. I think it might have been Jason Cook. If it wasn't and it was somebody else, then I apologise. But whoever it was, thank you very much. Because if you hadn't pointed out that I could change these, I probably wouldn't have realised. And again, I think that's more of a failing on the part of both the tutorial and the sort of quote-unquote manual that comes with the game. It doesn't really explain a lot of things. So we are almost into 1937. There's only a couple of days left in 1936. Nothing really significant and or interesting has happened yet. We will notice now that Montgomery has a few extra divisions in there, so he has gained some extra units. We now have the military police research, which is fantastic. So let's go ahead and work on the next research slot. Now, do we actually want to get the better bombers? I think we probably do. Bombers are going to be really, really useful for us. So what we're also going to do now is we are going to go into our colonial garrison template, and we're just going to go in here and add a military police division. And in fact, you're going to be my rebel suppression, so we'll go ahead and give you that. You can keep that name, that's fine. And we will... yeah, that's fine. We'll go ahead and save that. So what's going to happen now is all of these divisions down here are going to lose a little bit of experience because they're going to start gaining new units, even though it's only support units really. It's not a massive difference. There you go, they've just lost it. So some of them were already up to the level they should have been. They've just lost a little bit, but that's fine. We now have some free military factories, so where do we want to start using these factories? I think we definitely want to get some on infantry equipment, because that is definitely our biggest deficit at the moment. We've almost filled up on our fighters, and our, well, bombers are still quite some way away, but of course we will be swapping these out with new models very, very soon. So that is fine. I'm glad that we are actually now working on the military factories. Again, we will get quite a few sort of queued up, so we'll probably have a few more civilian factories down in the south, and then we'll have a few more military factories sort of up in the north. You can have multiple factories. You can keep clicking until they turn blue, so that is fine. How are things going down here in Spain? It definitely looks like nationalist Spain is winning. They haven't taken Madrid yet, but they are pushing in. Now, it is technically nationalist Spain we want to win, because nationalist Spain are fascist. It's communist Spain I think we want to win. I don't really think it matters. I think whichever one of them wins, you could still end up at war with them. Spain is one of the unknown quantities in this game, I tend to find. You never really know which way things are going to end up with them. Apart from that, this was another thing that there was 2 things that I was looking for in previous games, and I couldn't bloody find them for the life of me on the interface. First of all, to find out what the progress was in current wars, you click on the World Tension button up here in the top right hand corner, and then click on the Current Wars button, and you can see each war, and you can see who's winning the war by going into there. There's only a certain amount of details you can see, but you can actually see the war that's going on. The second screen that I was trying to find is the one that shows you how many regiments or divisions a nation has, and you do that by going to their diplomacy map and clicking on this details tab, which didn't even look like a tab. But you click on this details tab and you can see that the German Reich, for example, has between 27 and 58 regiments, and they have between 33 and 43 military factories, because these are estimated numbers. We don't know exactly how many they have. Got a lot of planes though. The Matilda has finished. Fantastic. So let's go ahead and what do we want to research next? Can we actually start getting these better support weapons already? No, we are still a little bit ahead of time. What could we work on potentially? Let's go ahead and also start working on... No, that's the wrong one. Let's go start working on some mountain troops. Mountain troops will be very, very useful for us if we want to put some down here in the south of France. Also, when we're fighting Italy, there's quite a lot of mountains down here. If we end up having to fight Spain, we've got some more mountains there as well. So it's very, very useful having those around. One thing we do need to do, this is something that I was forgetting in previous playthroughs as well. So we've just upgraded our light tanks from the Vickers 2 to the Matilda. So what I want to do now is change this production line. So I don't want to get rid of the production line because we'll lose the efficiency. We want to click on the tank and then change it to the Matilda. So you'll now see that we are short 180 tanks. And the reason we're short 180 tanks is because if we go down to this army, we can see we've got one division. No, it's not in this army, is it? It's in this one. We've got one division that has tanks in it. If we go ahead and click on this, we can see that it has 180 tanks. And these 180 tanks are all Vickers 2s. So what's going to happen is as we start building Matildas, the Matildas will replace the tanks in that division, and all of the Vickers tanks will come back into the stockpile. So there's already 156 in there. Now there's 157 because we're starting to replace tanks. If we actually have a look at this now, you can see that we only require 179. And I'm willing to bet if we went and clicked on this division now, yep, you can now see it has 179 Vickers 2 and 1 Matilda. So it is starting to cycle through and replace them with the newer tanks. If they ever need reinforcements and there are no Matildas possible, it'll start sending them Vickers. So it's still worth having the stockpile. So no national focus is set at the moment. We still can't go for this yet. We need December 37, so we've got a few more that we can go through first. Development in Canada is certainly a useful thing. Develop the Raj is also useful as well. I think we want to try and do as many of these as possible, so let's go ahead and get some of those going. And we can modify our government. So let's go ahead now and change our export focus onto free trade. So that will increase our research speed, it will increase our factory production. We are short on oil, so let's go ahead and trade off one of our factories with America. I wish you could set all that to automatic. It's like, I know you don't technically need to import the items that you don't have because things will still be constructed, things will still be built. Even if you're missing a resource, they'll just build more slowly. But it might be nice if you just wanted to set it, say, automatically. So, for example, I'm trading oil with the United States. It'd be nice if there was a button to say, look, if the United States, if I suddenly have a deficit on oil, ask the US for more, automatically. Don't bother me about it. Just go and ask for it. So, who knows? Maybe that will be something that gets added at a later time. So again, we are working on some of these military factories. That is fine. Then we've got a few more civilian factories queued up. Trying to stack the way that I was doing it before was go, right, build a load of civilian factories, and then the more civilian factories you've got, the more quickly you can build the military factories. But a few people made a good point of saying you should kind of switch between the two. Yes, it's good to have more civilian factories to build the military factories quicker, but you also want to get some extra military factories early on in the game, because the earlier you get those military factories, the more production lines you can have running, and that means you can start to stockpile things like tanks and motorized and artillery and planes and so on and so forth. So you'll notice the weapons and support equipment have these icons that are saying they are reinforcing. The Matilda has this icon saying that they are upgrading. So it's not actually reinforcing anything at the moment, it is just upgrading. The Treaty of Valencia is over. Oh, let's just pause up. The end of the Spanish Civil War. With the surrender of the last Republican strongholds, the Spanish Civil War has come to an end. The nationalists stand victorious and a new era for Spain has begun. The war-torn country has suffered greatly in the fighting and there is much rebuilding to be done. Hurricane is finished. So, we have a nationalist Spain who are fascists. Has volunteers sent to nationalists, so the Italians and the German Reich were helping them out. It's unfortunate, but not an awful lot you can do about that. What was that we just finished? Was that the Hurricane? I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, we finished the Hurricane. Can we start working on anything else here yet? We're still a little bit ahead of time with these. So we will leave them be. Let's go ahead and get the maintenance company. Actually, no, let's not do that just yet. Let's have a quick look over here. We can already get construction 2 and improve machine tools and concentrated industry. So I think we should start working on these as quickly as possible. Let's make sure we are unpaused then. How's the training going, Montgomery? You still only have six units here. Let's look at our recruit and deploy. Let's go ahead and add some more units. We want to keep spitting out infantry as much as we can. Let's go have a look in Africa. So most of these guys have sort of trained up now. That is fine. As soon as they all hit sort of max, we will stop them from exercising. And we will want to get some more troops over here. We will definitely want some more units over here. We may even put a few aircraft in Khartoum just to provide us with some air support. We'll see how things go. I would ideally like to get maybe 1 or 2 tank units down here, because having the speed is very, very useful. Depends how many units, how many divisions Italy decide to send down there. But I guess we will find out. World tension's already at 19%, which is, you know, mostly because of that peace deal from the Spanish War. And that's actually quite a good thing, because it does allow us, when we get to, I think it's 20% world tension? No, we need 50% to get extensive conscription. Another thing that I was unsure about was, you know, if I want to go for scraping the barrel, for example, and yes, I know you need certain things to be able to do it, like, for example, you need to be at war and you need the enemy's strength ratio to be 100% or more. But I was thinking, if I have to save up 600 political points to get that, do I really want to spend 300 on service by requirement? But these are all deductive. So if I upgraded to service by requirement, that would knock 300 off scraping the barrel. So you're going up in steps. You don't have to save up for the highest one. So that's not too bad. We're doing quite well on developing the Raj, so we've almost got that national focus completed. In fact, that's going to be done in just 3 days, which is really nice. That will give them 5 civilian factories. And then once that is done, we'll probably go and do the same thing for Canada. So that's that done. So let's go and we can do a lot of this now, actually. That's what I was waiting for the 20% for. Gains nationalist war spirit wartime industry, which grants civilian military factory conversion cost minus 20%. Not all that useful on its own, but it does allow us to then go down into a research bonus for industry and then an extra research slot. At the same time, general rearmament allows us to go into air and navy improvements. That's not so useful on its own. But yeah, do we want to go straight into the shadow scheme now, or do we want to go into the... Right, no. Of course, we want to deal with ourselves first. Go into shadow scheme first. The more quickly we can get that industrial effort, which is a research bonus to industry, which is really, really good, because we have construction... Now, does it only count as this, or does it count as the whole thing? Because this whole tab is industry. I think it counts for the whole tab. So that means if we actually wanted to work on machine tools or construction 2, we get the bonus on that. So that's the way that we want to go, I think. One thing we didn't do, and again I've completely forgot about this, as the Hindenburg can wait for a second. We need to change our interwar fighters over to Hurricanes. That should be okay. Should just be the ones that we need. And our bombers want to be switched over to the... Did we get the new bombers already? No, we're still working on the Wellington. That's fine then. The Hindenburg disaster. The German passenger airship Hindenburg was destroyed today while attempting to dock at the Lakehurst Naval Air Station in the United States. For reasons not yet determined, the airship was engulfed in flames and crashed to the ground, claiming 35 lives. Due to the scarcity and expense of helium and the US ban on exporting it, the Hindenburg, like all German passenger airships, was ultimately engineered to use hydrogen, which provides greater lift but is also flammable. With public faith shaken by this disaster and the rise of much faster passenger aircraft, this could spell the end of an era for airships. Oh, the humanity. So let us carry on. We're starting to get warnings again about low manpower. That's hardly a surprise, and we're going to have that issue for a while. Once we eventually end up in a war, we'll be able to sort that out. That won't be too much of a problem. How's your training going on? You've still got those 2 divisions. That is fine. Montgomery, how are you doing? You've got a new division there. So let's go and put you in the main army. We will have to sort of build up another army. That is fine. We will probably have, by the time we get into a war with the German Reich, we'll probably have 3 or maybe 4 armies with a full 24 divisions in them. And usually what happens is you start getting extra divisions from France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Canada, South Africa, the Raj. So we'll end up with a lot of armies and a lot of divisions by the end of things. So that's not too bad at all. Factories are still coming along nicely. Political power's going up. How are we doing for filling the factories on the infantry equipment? We are probably going to go up at some point and maybe put in the full 15 here, because we are a little bit behind. Now, the fighters, it's still saying that we need 4. So they're not going to get upgraded immediately. If we go and find out where our fighters are, so you can see we've got our fighters standing by. Yeah, so it's 694 gladiators and 2 Hawker Hurricanes. So what's going to happen is the Hurricanes will keep... It says we only require 6 or 4 or whatever the number is at the moment. Where is the number? It says we need 4. The only reason it's saying we need 4 is we need 4 to get this up to the 700. Once it's up at the 700, then any additional ones that are built will replace the gladiators, and the gladiators will go into storage, basically. But then as we start losing fighters, the gladiators will come out of storage and replenish that number. It's actually quite a good system, the way that it works. Once you understand the way that the supply and demand works on this game, it's not all that bad. So the Wellington is now completed. There's a lot of things we can do right now. First of all, let's go and look at the research. We want to... Wellington is done. We could go and work on strategic bombers. I don't think I want to do that right away. Can we get these yet? No, we're still a little bit ahead of time. Let's go ahead and get the maintenance companies. We are going to need those. We want to modify our government. So can we change the economy? Yeah, we can go to early mobilization or partial mobilization. So at the moment, 30% of our factories are used for the civilian economy, and that's 30% of all of our factories. So that's military factories, naval dockyards, and civilian factories. So 30% of them are used. The civilian and military factory construction speed is minus 30%, and the conversion cost is plus 30. Now, if we go to early mobilization, then consumer goods factories is only 25% instead of 30%. And the construction speed of the factories is only minus 10% penalty instead of minus 30. If we go to partial mobilization, then consumer goods factories is only 20%. And military factory construction speed gets plus 10%, while conversion is minus 10. So we're going to go to partial mobilization straight away. And what that will now mean is that our factories get built more quickly, which is ideal. We are still working on some more military factories. Then we've got a few civilian, then some military, then some civilian, and so on and so forth. We'll keep switching between them until we've built almost as many factories as we can. Yeah, I did go and put the full 15 in there. We probably want to get 5 in there as well at some point. We've only got 140 tanks to go to fill those regiments, although we will want to make them larger. One thing I didn't take a look at is, on my infantry divisions, the combat width. Combat width is relatively important. If a combat has a total of 80, you can fit 4 divisions with a width of 20. Ideally, you want to have combat width of 20. That's the number that you kind of want to see here, 20. So what we want to do is try and build that up at some point. We might put another regiment in, but there again, we will have some artillery going in here at some point. So we'll see how that works out for us. Amelia Earhart disappears. This doesn't always happen. Sometimes she does survive, but in this case, she did not. The famous aviator Amelia Earhart, the first woman to complete a solo flight across the Atlantic, has disappeared along with her navigator Fred Noonan near Howard Island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The two were attempting a flight around the entire world in their twin-engined Lockheed Electroplane when they vanished. A search for the missing aviators is now being conducted by the US Navy and Coast Guard, but there is little hope of finding them. A loss for aviation. So if we wanted to go and add our artillery to this, now it costs 25 points to add a different group, a different... now, what are these called? So the whole thing is the division. These individual columns are not battalions, they are brigades. So each of these individual columns is a brigade. So if we add a new brigade that is a different type, then it's 25. But an infantry brigade, we could go and add artillery. So we can do that, and then we can go and add more artillery. That gives us a combat width of 24. But getting the artillery in there is quite nice. We've only got 10 points. What else would we like to add in there? A recon company as well. So we want to get up to 20, and then we'll make that change. Hopefully by that point, we'll actually have some artillery in the stockpile. And it won't take them quite as long to build up. So we want to get up to 20 army experience. It's going to take a little bit of time in getting there. But it'll certainly be useful. We are still training here. We've got a few units that are already trained up. So you're going to go ahead and join that army. Now that army's almost full, so we will have to start another one soon. But I think we're going to go ahead and end the video there. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you are still enjoying Hearts of Iron 4 as the UK. I'll see you on the next video. And until then, goodbye for now.